Horror tends to shine brightest in passive media like TV and movies, and of course there are classic novels. But the medium I find most overlooked for horror is comic books. You probably have a classic jump scare you can call back to, but how many horrific page turns do you think of? In the spirit of Halloween, here are 9 of my favorite horror comics. The ice cream man is a staple profession of American culture. Driver of a musical truck filled with delicious and colorful treats on a hot day to suburban kids. But what if that man was a godlike alien demon whose sole joy is to sow discord and chaos into daily life? But don't worry about all that big stuff, because Ice Cream Man is an anthology of tales that frighten on a deeply personal level. A one-hit wonder struggles to reclaim his fame. A young woman considers an abortion. A man laments his friend's death. All these come with twists and turns that are too good to spoil, but serve to exemplify the grounded human regrets, fears, and phobias that Ice Cream Man harvests into truly skin-crawling tales. I'll bet the majority of you out there know the name Alan Moore. He's the bearded wizard man who made Watchmen and V for Vendetta, and hates every single adaptation of his work. And I'm sure many of you are at least aware of the Saga of the Swamp Thing by name. Swamp Thing is one of those characters that exists on the fringes of popular culture. He's not as popular as Batman or Superman, but he certainly has his fans. Saga of the Swamp Thing cannot be ignored. Alan Moore took a fairly straightforward character with horror roots and crafted a beautiful tale, tackling issues of racism, self-identity, overpopulation, environmentalism, and tons more. The art and story are perfectly crafted and come together to make something truly beautiful. It is lightning in a bottle and an experience that is too transformative to the comics medium as a whole to miss out on. And if you want to know a little bit more about the Swamp Thing character, you should check out my previous video, The Many Failures of Swamp Thing. I find some of the best horror is surreal and strange. Unexpected, even confusing moments of tension filled with wildcard elements that mean the scene can turn in almost any direction. Shibatarian is that kind of story. The titular Shibata is odd. You can tell that just from his design. His large, cartoonish eyes and simplistic features compared to the rest of the cast means he consistently stands out and has an uneasy, uncanny valley look to him. He's a lover of movies, a great friend, and a duplicating evil force determined to turn all of humanity into clones of himself to fulfill the wish of his childhood friend. All based on the idea of a movie script. Is Shibata a ghost? A virus? An alien? I have no idea, but I'm excited to find out. It's strange and violent with an eccentric, oscillating tone from goofball comedy to bloody violence to tense dread. It might be hard to get this as a physical copy, but if you can, its page turns are horrific enough to not be ignored. What does it mean to be cursed? Is it just a ghostly haunting? Is it to be injured? Is it to face the consequences of actions long past? PTSD Radio paints the story of a cursed land and people, past and present, in a dreamy way. Stories start and stop, often with a vague sense of dread or horrific image, and then continued several chapters later, either directly or indirectly. While at first PTSD Radio may seem like an anthology, you come to realize these seemingly random hauntings connect to form a larger tale of festering revenge built up over decades that is now determined to destroy all in its wake. With stunning yet disturbing art that'll freak you out with every single page turn, and a surreal quality that always leaves you with questions, PTSD Radio is the perfect manga to read in the dark. Technology is bridging the gaps between people so much that soon we may even break down the barriers of flesh. Come Into Me explores what happens when two minds are forced to share the same body through an experimental procedure, and the horrors that come from it. Body dysmorphia, tumors, invasive surgery are all splattered on the page with a style clearly inspired by the great David Cronenberg. Come Into Me is a body horror that plays on your insecurities and will make you wish that you could leave your flesh behind. Like Swamp Thing, the Hulk is a character that is always pulled from the horror genre. From its Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde concept, and the Hulk's design taking cues from the Universal Studios version of Frankenstein's monsters. Al Ewing does something similar to Alan Moore, reaching back to these roots while incorporating decades of lore and characters into the horrifying and introspective Immortal Hulk. One of Hulk's darkest personas, the Devil Hulk, emerges as the main host. More cunning and brutal than the others, only coming out at night and sniffing out injustice like a folktale cryptid. The death and rebirth cycle of our immortal is explored, involving a green door which bridges and connects all those affected by gamma radiation. And on the other side of this green door is a malevolent force called the One Below All that seeks to destroy everything. Immortal Hulk is both grand scale with its threats and foes and deeply personal to the many identities of Bruce Banner and their relationship to the Hulks. The grotesque physicality of transforming into the Hulk is on full display, a sludge of pulsing mass and muscle forming the legendary behemoth. In one chapter, Hulk is fully dissected, separated into glass jars while still living, only to break out, fusing back together, and trapping his foe within his recombining flesh. Whether you're new to the character or a veteran, Immortal Hulk provides cosmic, body, and existential horror packaged into a story that fits right at home in the Marvel Universe. This next one is more of a series of recommendations than anything. Junji Ito is a man that needs very little introduction. The Enigma of Amigara Fall, Gyo, Uzumaki. The list goes on and on. From short stories to full series, Ito's bizarre horror tales, accompanied by his strikingly detailed art, always serve to chill and thrill. I own several of his collections, including Remina, about a cannibal planet that travels and devours other planets in its wake, and Junji Ito's manga adaptation of the classic novel Frankenstein. In truth, I could recommend just about any and all of his stories. If you haven't checked out Junji Ito yet, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. Just be sure to avoid the animes, because most of them are very bad. However, I am looking forward to the upcoming Adult Swim adaptation of Uzumaki, which seems to be adapting a more motion comic style to faithfully recreate Ito's artwork. Hopefully that'll finally come out this Halloween. Nameless is a story about astronauts discovering a meteor containing the Mesoamerican hell. Or, Nameless is a story of a haunted house seance gone wrong. Or, maybe it's the delusions of a rogue magician. Nameless is all and none of these things, combining Event Horizon and Jacob's Ladder into a tale that makes you feel as powerless as the unfortunate characters trapped within. You'll share their confusion as they desperately struggle to combat the unknowable force that they come to battle. It's definitely a stronger mood than anything else, and every reread feels like pulling back new layers of understanding, like scratching a pesky itch till it bleeds. Leave your mind open and let Nameless take over. For this next story, I need to put a content warning. While the other stories can be gory and frightening, this one is downright malicious in its depictions of violence, sex, and the world at large. Check out the timestamp below if you wish to skip it. The Furry Trap is grimy, dirty, filthy. The Furry Trap is sexual, sacrilegious, bloody, and confounding. It's a series of stories connected only by a vague feeling of uneasiness, muck, and grime, like stumbling upon a dark web snuff film or some strangely perverse porn. The title itself seems like some euphemism you would look up online only to find something truly disgusting. I could try and describe some of the stories of the Furry Trap, but really it's more about experiencing them than anything. I can earnestly say reading The Furry Trap is truly discomforting, but for a horror, I really love that. Sometimes what's happening on the page won't be horrific at all. Sometimes the stories are comedic. Yet they all carry this mood that what you're looking at is wrong. Like it's something that a kid might get in trouble with their parents for looking at. Something a church might burn. If you can stomach it, give The Furry Trap a read. So there you have it. 9 of my favorite horror comics that I hope you'll check out and feel the same amount of fear, disgust, and discomfort that I did. If you're looking for more comic recommendations, check out my Comic of the Week shorts, and if you like more long-form essays, check out the rest of my videos. Stay tuned for my Halloween video coming up, which will be about a comic creator who plotted his murder out in his comic. Until then, have a happy Halloween season, and good night.